in the next segment, I need to bring you up to speed on the federal budget because you see the underlying need, and even the Harvard study pointed this out, money. Funding for education in America is not where it needs to be. Look at the countries in the world that are truly progressive and that are progressing in their societies. They have just an enduring commitment to investing in their next generations.
If anyone thinks I'll finish the job of deficit reduction on the backs of middle-class families or through spending cuts alone that actually hurt our economy short-term, they should think again. When it comes to deficit reduction, I've already met Republicans more than halfway, so in the coming days and weeks, I hope that Republicans will come forward and demonstrate that they're really as serious about the deficits and debt as they claim to be. The numbers work. There's not a lot of smoke and mirrors in here. And if we can come together, have a serious, reasoned debate, not driven by politics, and come together around common sense and compromise, then I'm confident we'll move this country forward and leave behind something better for our children.
Your voice, Ktlk, AM 1150, where listening is a virtue.
Things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I want money.
Ah, yes, I want your money too. We're telling the feds, right? KTLK, AM 1150, it is your voice. It doesn't make any sense in California, where we have a huge population of undocumented immigrants still waiting, as you and I are, for immigration reform, but we're going to foot the bill. This is when you ought to get on Senator Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer and say, how can I support you to make this budget deal happen? What can I do? In the meantime, I need more analysis on this. We're going now to scholar Peter Matthews, university professor at Cypress College, and also an analyst who's always with us, a regular contributor. Professor, thank you for being here.
David, how are you doing today, my friend?
Great, great, great. Your take, your assessment of what the president's work is right now, and are we moving closer? I mean, when you're canceling the Blue Angels coming to Southern California, albeit, some people say it's window dressing. I say it's part of the image of the military. I mean, I think we're starting to see some of the effects. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I think what Obama is going to try to do is to cut back on the increase in Social Security funding and the cost of living allowances and certain social programs. At the same time, he'll be able to get some tax increases from the Republicans in exchange for it. He wants to do that. But it's going to cause a lot of pain. There's more than Social Security funding being cut. There's a lot of things. For example, $10 million for water quality monitoring for California will be affected by that. To eliminate money from other programs that would hurt the people here itself. For example, $250 million to help states with the cost of jailing the undocumented immigrants, like you mentioned. So that's going to be an added burden, but he's going to add some money also. We'll get $130 million for L.A. to extend the subway to the west side and build the downtown tunnel to link the Gold Line, as well as the Blue Line from Long Beach and the Expo Line from Culver City. So he's adding some money as well, but cutting money from L.A., the L.A. area itself.
All right, and I understand that, and I was thinking, okay, so he sent some, not he, but there are some federal dollars coming in. That's going to keep construction people going. But
yes.
We're not all, when I heard about how we were going to build up America infrastructure, it's not that I begrudge construction workers, but we're not all construction workers, Professor. What
That's
about
right.
the rest of our economy?
We have got to, again, focus on small business, and we need to bring that infrastructure, not just infrastructure bank, but a small business bank that would give loans to small businesses. I've always proposed. He doesn't have any real direct money for that, and I think that's a mistake right there. He's got to bring money in for small business, Dave. That's what helps expand the economy right there.
I totally agree with you. Why? These are very intelligent and bright people. Why is it that small business has not been given some relief? Is that part of the bank lobby that is telling the administration, no, we want these sectors to be dependent upon us?
Yeah, because the infrastructure bank is going to leverage private capital as well from the big banks. So the big banks
Yes.
have more influence in the lobbying system than the small businesses. And we've got to get more representation for small business in Congress, for example, and with the presidency. That's really part of the problem. And you've also got, he's trying to put some money into preschool, which is good, for all children. and the all-day kindergarten. That's going to be good. But like you said, the small business is the engine that drives the economy. And he really needs to recognize that, David, and start putting money in those kinds of small business investments.
You know the other place, Professor, and maybe you can see it, the healthcare budgets. I'm concerned that we're moving towards the full implementation of Obamacare, and I'm seeing healthcare being sliced and diced as private sector companies are making very strategic moves. And some of this, of course, is going to be impacted by the budget, not only right now, but even into the future. Do you see a healthier healthcare a framework? Or are we going to see a lot of people in pain, pardon the pun, because of the combination of the reforms as well as the budget cuts?
You're going to see a combination of pain as well as some help. I mean, what's going to happen is this health care burden is going to be shifted from the elderly people more to the young people in terms of premiums, and you're still going to leave 20 million people uncovered. The Obama plan doesn't cover everyone, but it does extend 30 million people coverage. Now, here's the problem also that's very important, Dave, Medicare. You know, we need to make sure that Medicare premiums are not in any way increased, and he wants to increase them on higher-income seniors, and he also wants to, I think the better way to go is to get the government Medicare system to bargain with the drug companies for lower prices for seniors. That's where you can save billions of dollars. So some of what Obama's doing is good, but he's not doing the completely what he should do to really make the savings count.
But, of course, Professor, it seems like look, we have been focused on immigration reform. We've been talking about gun violence in America. Doesn't it feel to you, because it does to me, I don't get many callers these days talking about the budget. Now, I don't get many people in my own family talking about the budget other than our own. Is this thing an out of sight, out of mind situation until it comes to roost on us? Until
it comes to roost directly on us. For example, the cost of living for Social Security recipients, that's going to be cut back, and so they're going to be losing money per month and thousands over a 10-year period for the elderly, and that's going to hit people gradually but surely. And let me say something. The chained CPI, he's switching to what's called a chained CPI to determine the cost of living allowance, which is really a lower amount of cost of living than if he went to the regular CPI. And that's very technical, but, chained CPI means, like, let's say someone usually buys steak, but the price of steak goes up, so he goes out and buys chicken instead, and the price of that is a little bit lower. That means the cost of living hasn't gone up for that person too much. But in reality, it's gone up for everyone because all the prices have gone up across the board, and the seniors won't be able to keep up fully with that. But that's a real problem, and many liberal Democrats are against Obama for doing that. They want him to stop using chained CPI.
I see. So you're saying that if we're adapting, if we are doing what we have to do to stay within our own budgets, it's not always something that's reflected in the data that we're getting, because while we may want to have steak, we either may not be able to afford it or can't get our hands on it because it's gotten so pricey.
That's right, exactly. So it's much better if President Obama stays with a regular CPI, doesn't cut the rate of increase of the cost of living on the seniors, but instead brings money in from other ways. For example, he could, in fact, increase the taxable income on Social Security, put it on all income or incomes above a certain amount. Right now it's only capped at $113,000 or so a year.
Right.
So, if you want to bring money in for Social Security, you shouldn't be cutting it. I think we should expand it to include everyone, and then that way more money would come in, and it would really be more of an equity situation.
So you're saying that people who make more than that would continue to pay a more, in other words, the tax would go beyond that $113,000.
But it would be correct, but it would be the same percent, though, on everyone.
No, I get it.
6.2%. And right now, people making, $800,000 a year are paying only like 1% of that income into their Social Security fee, whereas those of us making under $100,000 are paying 6.2%. So it's a regressive tax. That could be fixed. Those kinds of things are what the president should be looking at to balance the budget, to make the cuts in the increase in the cuts, the deficit reduction. Like Republicans are just going crazy about deficit reduction, and their budget is way too radical in that direction. So the president should stick to his higher taxes on the super wealthy and closing corporate loopholes. He's got some specifics on it, but they're specific.
Well, but the concern is, as I let you go, sir, that we've used the sequester. That doesn't seem to have pulled many people off center. They're still, or off extreme, they're still exactly, it seems, where they were weeks ago. And that's my concern. What do we do next? What do you do when you draw a line in the sand, someone crosses it, and you've got nothing else left? Then what do you do?
You're going to have to give it a couple more months, and more people will get hit by it, and then that line in the sand becomes more clear. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's what's going to happen coming up here in the next few months. You're going to have more people affected by the sequester. The Obama budget, if it actually were implemented, would reduce would have reduced the deficit by $4.3 trillion during his tenure. So pretty good, significant reduction, but he shouldn't do it on the backs of seniors or poor people or the middle class. It should be those who can afford it, you know? That's what I would argue, Mr. President.
Professor Peter Matthews, Cypress College and political analyst, broadcast media, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
My pleasure, Dave. Take care.